This is the anatomy of a neuron. A neuron is the functional unit of the nervous system. The nervous system is responsible for transmitting and receiving nerve impulses. This process is necessary for receiving sensory input from the body and producing a motor or behavioral response.
The neuron has different parts responsible for its various functions. This is the dendrite, where the neuron receives incoming signals and transmits this information to the soma, or cell body.
This is the nucleus. It is located in the soma and produces RNA that directs synthesis of proteins. It is worth noting that the soma and nucleus are not responsible for the transmission of the nerve signal, but rather serve to maintain the cell and keep the neuron functional.
This is the axon, which extends from the cell body to its terminal endings and transmits the neural signal. The larger the diameter of the axon, the faster it transmits information. Some axons are covered with a fatty substance called myelin that acts as an insulator. Myelinated axons transmit information much faster than other neurons.
In this figure, sodium is in green and potassium is in yellow. Sodium concentration is high outside of the cell and potassium concentration is high inside the cell.
At its resting membrane potential, the gates for the voltage-gated sodium and potassium channels are closed. Depolarization is initiated by a stimulus which makes the membrane potential more positive, causing the voltage-gated sodium channels to open.
You can see sodium ions diffusing across the membrane, causing depolarization. Potassium channels open as well, but more slowly.
More sodium going into the cell than potassium going out makes the membrane potential more positive and is responsible for the spike in the action potential graph.
When maximum depolarization is reached, the sodium channels begin to close and diffusion of sodium into the cell decreases. Potassium channels remain open at this time and potassium ions continue to diffuse out of the cell.
The increase in potassium ion permeability lasts slightly longer than the time required to bring the membrane potential back to normal, causing the membrane potential to be slightly more negative than the resting value, also called hyperpolarization.
This increase in membrane voltage causes the action potential to propagate down the axon, finally to the postsynaptic cleft where it communicates with other neurons chemically or electrically. The sodium-potassium pump will then bring the membrane potential back to its resting value after the action potential has occurred.